And of course, we do have other options. There are third parties in this country. I'm not sure if anybody knows that anymore because it was hard to even find an article about this. So for those that don't know, Jo Jorgensen has won the Libertarian Party presidential nomination. This was a little surprising to me. I'm not a big L libertarian, but I've been trying to follow the race as much as I can. I have shared several of the debates, both from the presidential candidates and the vice presidential candidates on the Twitter, the official Liberty Starship Twitter. And so the first thing I want to say is congratulations to Jo Jorgensen for winning the nomination. Good on you. I think the Libertarian Party can be very highly contentious. I think some interesting, strange things happened. I was surprised to see that the gray Larry Sharpe ticket kind of went down as quickly as it did, because I thought that there was some more traction there than there obviously was. But it says that she won with slightly over 51% of the vote. That was on the fourth ballot with 524 votes. Jacob Hornberger actually came in second with nearly 28% of the vote. Then Vermin Supreme, which I think is your favorite, Peter. I think this is the person that you really wanted. He came in third with 20% of the final vote. I know you're a big fan of his. So
yes. So unfortunately, baby Hitler is safe for another 4 years. And I don't think we need to tolerate that. If you don't know, Vermin Supreme, and he's a joke candidate, he's a satirist who has promised to fully fund time travel. You know, they always talk about how we're going to fully fund this, we're going to fully fund that, as though throwing money at a problem will necessarily solve it when maybe some problems aren't soluble. And so we're going to fully fund time travel, go back in time and kill baby Hitler, and then we'll avoid the Holocaust. So unfortunately, that kind of not even forward-thinking candidate, but backward-thinking candidate will not be the president.
Depends on your perspective there, right? I was actually surprised, I have to say, that Adam Kokesh and again also Judge James Gray did so poorly that they basically were knocked out, I think, in the first and second rounds. That really surprised me. And I don't know if you know a lot about them or if that surprised you, but that did surprise me. Apparently they didn't have very much support.
Yeah. I did watch the Kentucky debate before we had Jacob Christian on the show, because I wanted to see, okay, who's running and who are they and what do they think? And so I took pretty good notes. My impression of Judge Jim Gray was that he lacked charisma. Larry Sharpe, his VP, a lot of people have said maybe Larry Sharpe should have run for the nomination because he had a lot more charisma. Jo Jorgensen doesn't have a...
Well, I saw one of the vice presidential debates, and I caught the end of it. I didn't catch the whole thing. But I was looking in that chat. Oh, my goodness, there was some Larry Sharpe hate in there. And I was like, who are these people? Really, I was just sitting there like, who are these people that you don't acknowledge the fact? You know, you don't have to, I understand if you don't agree with him on certain issues or whatever, but it's like, how far gone are these people that they think someone like Larry Sharpe is like a bad guy? And you know what I mean? Like I just saw some terrible comments in there and it really surprised me. And it's a big reason that that is a big reason that I will not join the Libertarian Party, because I just see such crazy positions sometimes. And I've made the point on this show many times that I think it's ironic, you know, a group of people that say that they believe in voluntarism, they believe in the non-aggression principle, are so dismissive of people that don't agree with them on 100% of every issue. I just don't understand that. Now, the thing I like about Jorgensen that I saw was she says that she's much more pragmatic, that she believes basically in what people would term as the night watchman concept of government. She was very clear about that in terms of her political philosophy on the debate that I saw, where she said, I am absolutely pro-police, absolutely pro-military, absolutely pro-judge. You know, I think those elements are important for a free society, and those are things that I will defend. And it's the rest of it that, of course, she questions. And my ideology fits more with that than probably any other presidential candidate in terms of, yes, that's kind of where I come from. Now, the practicality of how you start dismantling all these other things, that's a real question. And I don't know if she's prepared to answer that or not. I didn't see the whole debate. I haven't gotten a chance to look at her entire platform. But I always find that interesting because it's not like you can just turn the switch off the second you're elected. You can't just get rid of Social Security, for instance, on day one. There has to be a process. There has to be a plan. You can't just stop all the government cheese, just with a simple writing of the pen, right? As Obama used to say, have a pen. So you just use the pen and you wash it away. It doesn't really work like that. There's a lot of dependence on government right now. So you have to have some sort of a plan to get to where you want to go, where the government is about those things. It's about the most basic protections and all those kinds of things, as opposed to, of course, the other idea that's just straight up anarchy, which I don't advocate at all. So I don't know a whole lot about her. Do you know much about her, Pete?
Well, I just know what I saw during the debate, the Kentucky debate, and what she did run for vice president. I think back in 2000, she was Harry Brown's running mate, and Harry Brown
1996
was,
it's here at the,
oh,
the
96?
article. Yeah, 96 Libertarian vice presidential candidate.
Okay, so she was one of Harry Brown's vice presidential nominees, running mates. He ran again in 2000, but I thought that she was very articulate. If anything, she comes across as though a little bit mousy. So although she's articulate, she won't scare a lot of voters. I don't know that she has a big idea that will bring them in. I think it's kind of, well, she's running on a third party ticket and I'm not afraid of her, but I don't really want her. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I don't see her getting a lot of traction. You did mention earlier, and I wanted to just mention him in passing, Adam Kokesh. I know exactly why Adam Kokesh didn't do better, because he has shown himself to be good at getting attention. He's had some legal issues, to be blunt, where he got arrested for having, I think it was mushrooms or something, psilocybin mushrooms in his house, and so he was basically daring people, the police, to arrest him. He got arrested at the Jefferson Memorial, and that I have a little more sympathy for. Okay, he was dancing at the Jefferson Memorial. Who are you really hurting there? Shouldn't you have a right to do it? It's kind of ironic. Jefferson is Mr. Liberty, and you're not allowing people to dance in front of his statue. That's crazy. Okay. But then when they wanted to bring guns into DC illegally, that was the thing where I said, okay, this guy is about himself and about self-promotion, and he doesn't have any common sense, because ultimately, between the gun charges and the drug charges, he went to jail, and he viewed himself as a victim, but he was daring them to arrest him. And what was the point? What did he get out of that? Was there a mass movement that we need to, completely decriminalize get rid of every gun ordinance in DC, or we need to get rid of our psilocybin? No, he wasn't a martyr. He was just some guy who got himself arrested, and nobody outside of the Libertarian Party, practically, or the Liberty Movement more broadly, had ever heard of him.
Well, I just want to I want to get a little bit more basic than that on just some basic ideas here, because I did see a little bit of him on one of the debates. And he went after Gray, Judge. I understand jury nullification. I understand the idea, okay, and I understand the idea of advocating for it, okay. I understand, people that want to go out to courts and they want to give literature so juries are aware of the concept of jury nullification, because I actually see jury nullification in a lot of ways as almost a free speech issue, and I think it could be argued that way, but I don't hear it articulated that way very often. But it's a controversial issue, but it's one of those issues almost nobody cares about. And if you're going to hang somebody on the issue of jury nullification and their position on jury nullification, I'm sorry, but 99% of the people out there, especially the people that vote, could care less about jury nullification and don't know what it is. I do know what jury nullification is, and I like I said, I believe that it could be advocated more from a First Amendment point of view. But at the same time, I'm like, I know this is not a winning issue. I know this is not something that I could base a campaign on. And it's certainly not something that I would hang another candidate on, because this man's a judge and he's not for jury nullification enough. I just found that bizarre. That's just my personal opinion of what little I saw during the debate, because he specifically went after Gray about that. And I just like, this is your big issue? Jury nullification? Nobody cares about this.
Well, I'm a big fan of jury nullification. I think we can talk about it on a later show. But I
But nobody
agree.
else
If
cares
you're a
about it,
small
Pete. I'm
party,
sorry. I mean, I'm not saying no to jury nullification. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. And again, I think that it
yeah,
should be advocated more,
yeah,
even as a First Amendment thing. But if you run on that, I'm sorry, Pete. Nobody's going
right.
to care. Nobody's going to care.
Sure, yeah. Well, it's an issue that I think yeah, you're right. If you're going to make it an issue, libertarians have done a good job of bringing a lot of issues to the public, from drug legalization, uh, getting rid of the public school monopoly. We now have charter schools and
And by
vouchers
the
and stuff
way,
like that
Gray's
because of
big issue,
libertarians.
but Gray's big issue was the drug war. You know what I mean? That's what his cornerstone issue is that he's built a reputation as someone that's been against the drug war as a judge. And so he has an incredible amount of credibility in my mind. This is the kind of person that you want to put to the public. I don't know, just the whole hanging him on jury nullification, I thought was just stupid,
Sure.
silly,
And
silly,
so
silly.
so a couple things. First of all, you're right. If you're going to run on it, I mean, a lot of groundwork has to be laid to get the public on board with this. You can't just say, jury nullification, expect people to know what you're talking about. Right now, nobody knows what that is. It's not a winning issue. The reason why these other issues are winning issues is because we've spent decades, at least 50 years, advocating for this and educating people. It doesn't happen overnight. And you don't have the luxury as a third party, especially a party that builds itself as the party of principle, to say we're going to kick people out of our tent and still expect that you're going to get, whatever the threshold is, 2, 3, 5, or 15%, if that's the goal. You're not going to do that by pushing issues that nobody cares about and saying anybody who doesn't believe in this right now is my enemy. You have to convince people this is a republic. It's not a dictatorship where Adam Kokesh is going to become president, even if he did, you know, and then the next day make jury nullification the law of the land the next day. It will not happen. It's a ridiculous idea.
Yeah, I just thought it was a strange thing to go after him about, especially a person who was an actual judge and all that. I just
Well,
thought it was silly. So
yeah, and I think it gets to the point that Adam Kokesh isn't a serious person. I think Jim Gray's biggest problem is that he completely lacks charisma. I don't think that Jo Jorgensen is the most zippy candidate, but she was more articulate and I thought more charismatic than Judge Jim Gray was. He was almost falling asleep during the debate. But just my
I wouldn't go.
opinion.
I wouldn't.
I
I
think
wouldn't go that far personally, but I would.
Yeah,
I would.
he's
I will
not Joe
say.
Biden, but
I
he
will
was kind of a
say.
boring candidate. Let's face
I
it.
will say. Jorgensen philosophically comes closest to what I believe philosophically. I just think that I wonder how much of a plan she has to actually implement that, because you can't just do that overnight. We've got a lot, and you have to determine what the low hanging fruit is. For instance,
Right.
on the conservative side, usually they'll go after something like the Department of Education or something like that. If you can eliminate one department, that would be a pretty big accomplishment. You know what I mean? That's moving in the right direction. And so far, nobody's been able to do that. So maybe start there or something like that, and eventually we'll get to where where our government should be.
Yeah, DHS. Just roll it back into the military defense.
Yeah, that would not
No,
be a winning issue right now, Pete. That would
no,
that
I
would
don't
not be
think
a
so
good
either.
campaign.
That was it.
Cornerstone of your campaign.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. The pragmatism.
Right.
So
And
often you just don't
obviously,
see the pragmatism that you need in order to be electable. So
and almost every department, including DHS, obviously that was a joke, they do things that are needed. You can't just get rid of all the offices inside of DHS. What would happen if you did get rid of one of these departments is you'd have to move some of their functions to a different department, which is kind of a
I
bit
have a
of.
great one.
Mhm.
I have
Okay.
a great one, and actually, my conservative friend said this to me when this first happened, back when there was all the political will in the world to make this happen. When Homeland Security was created, there was a whirlwind of bipartisan support that this was a great reform, this was a great move. And I remember one of my friends, who I think of as he has a lot of libertarian tendencies, but he's by and large sort of a more of a classic conservative type of person. And he's a complicated person. He doesn't believe all liberty. He's pragmatic. He's a very pragmatic individual. But one of the things he said that I love, and I never heard anybody else say this, is we already have a Department of the Interior. Why do we have to create another department to consolidate all these different agencies? Why couldn't we just put them in there? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
why do we
Sure.
have to create an entire new executive department? That's one of that to me is like low-hanging fruit. But I've never heard anybody else say that other than my friend, that was just observing that and saying, we already have a Department of the Interior. We have existing departments that we could scale up and handle this if that's what we want to do. Of course, the question also becomes, was consolidating them really the right thing to do? That's a totally different conversation. But at the very least, you could say,
right.
But I'm just saying, at the very least, you could say we don't need to create an entire new executive department, an entire new bureaucracy. We could simply expand an existing one.
Sure, but at that point, you're really talking about reorganization, not actually getting rid of the thing. You're just moving the dirt under the rug. But
no, but the dirt was already there.
I think we can leave it at.
Well, but I just want to make that point. The dirt was already there. These agencies already existed. What all the Homeland Security did was consolidate a bunch of different agencies that are, quote unquote, related to security under one executive branch. Because, for instance, before, the Coast Guard used to be part of the Department of Transportation, and then it was moved to Homeland Security. You had a bunch of other departments that were shuffled around from where they used to be. If you wanted to shuffle them all around, you could have just taken an existing department and shuffled them all under them instead of creating an entire new department. That's the point I want to make sure.
Yeah, I hear you.